take your time. Don't be in a hurry when you start a business, right? It takes a lot of time. And CBT is one of the methodologies we use in our own organization. It's a scientifically proven methodology, right? It helps everybody to learn coping mechanisms. Personally, if you ask me, I've probably fulfilled both of this in my career. I think it's more personal for an individual to say,
Right.
I would like to do this and I would like to, work extra hours or whatever it is, right? So it's up to an individual.
Hello, viewers. Welcome back to the latest episode on GIBS IRE Talks podcast powered by GIBS Business School, a place where innovation meets inspiration. This is Professor Guru Prasad, the host for today. Well, in this platform of IRE, which stands for Innovation, Research and Entrepreneurship, I believe we have hosted numerous talks, numerous sessions, numerous workshops, numerous podcasts, wherein the best of the best entrepreneurs have shared their entrepreneurial journey, right? The do's and the don'ts, the mistakes that they have done, and end of the day, they have shared some very good message to all of you. So we were just having a look at all these. We found a big time missing, or something that is more relevant today, is we need somebody who can speak about mental well-being or mindfulness, or this is the era where I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of corporate professionals talking about stress, talking about anxieties because of the work pressure and all of that. So we thought, I think it's the right time and a platform for us to get somebody who will speak on this, who runs an organization which is focused on this. I think that can be a major takeaways in your entrepreneur journey. So today we have with us Mr. Saravanan Neel, who is a co-founder and CEO of Silver Oak Health. On behalf of all my viewers, I extend my heartfelt welcome to you, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is very interesting. This is a platform which has had numerous interactions with, I would say, entrepreneurial stalwarts on varieties of topics, which is very, very important. This is something very new. This is something unique, and most importantly, this is the need of the hour today. So before I get into the subject matter, I would love to know something about your early life, your school days, your college days, your upbringing. How was that?
I grew up in a very simple middle class family. My father was from defense. He worked in the Air Force, so that shaped up a lot of what I am today to a great extent, including installing discipline and whatnot. What we learned at a very early stage, right? And of course, my parents taught a lot of core values. What I carry, whether it is integration or integrity, or all of these things are wired into us because of the upbringing what our parents did, right? So that is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
Right. My schooling was primarily I studied in Kendra Vidyalaya. It's a Defense Air Force school.
Yes.
And my college was in Madras Christian College in Chennai. Then I did my master's in Annamalai University.
Okay.
In personal management and industrial relations.
Wow.
And then I got into the HR space, and I spent around over 2 decades in the HR function.
Wow.
And 2015, I decided to get out of the HR space and do something on my own, and that's when Silver Oak Health was born.
Okay. Now I'm able to link why the HR person was more concerned towards the mental well-being.
Yeah,
anything that triggered you?
I don't know. When I look back, obviously I can now relate to a lot of challenges what I've faced in my professional career, what I've observed in employees, what the challenges they go through. It makes a lot of sense, right? Obviously, I'll be very honest. I didn't have so much of awareness on mental health during my HR career, right? I learned a lot about mental health, the importance of mental health since 2015 after co-founding Silver Oak Health.
That's great. Finally, when you're witnessing something, when you're a part of something, I think you tend to establish something like this today. And I think the Silver Oak Health is a result of that.
Absolutely.
I also heard you are a big time philanthropist and an avid golfer as well. So
we do a bit of both. So I'll answer the second question, which led to the philanthropy journey as well. So I picked up golf while I was living in the US. So I've been golfing for over 20 years now. Average golfer. I wouldn't rate myself something better than that. And weekend golfers. We have a group of people who we golf with. So one of such groups came together and said, "Hey, it's fun for us to golf, but then is there something beyond that we can do to the golfing community?"
True.
Right. So that's when we formed a group called Bangalore Golfers Trust (BGT). It was back in 2013, and six of us started this. So today we support over 150 children with their education needs.
Wow.
And these are children of caddies and other support staff who work in the golf courses, right? Unfortunately, these employees don't get paid a lot, right? So they for them to make a change in their kids' education or their the generations to come. So we felt this was a great way to help them. So we've been doing this for last 12 years. And year after year, we conduct tournaments, golf tournaments. We raise funds. A lot of our friends come and play. A lot of our friends contribute to this cause. So that's how we've been driving this journey.
Well, your journey towards golf was also a start because a part of mental well-being, because sometimes when you get into the sports that you love, it's also a part of stress management. And today you have
Absolutely.
converted that sport into something big.
Yeah. So when we are out there for the 4-5 hours when we are in a golf round, obviously it's a lot of fun, right? We are with our friends, buddies, hanging around, pulling each other's leg. It's a lot of fun. It's very relaxing, right? At the same time, people who know golf will also say it's a mental game, right? 90% of golf is mental and 10% is physical. So it's extremely taxing.
Absolutely.
For professional golfers, I should say. For amateurs, it's okay. But so that's a challenge with the sport itself.
I know.
Yeah, but then it's fun.
It's fun, end of the day. You were enjoying your corporate life,
Yes,
I would say.
I did.
And I understand, I wouldn't say the pain, the challenge of living that and starting something on your own. So what was your mindset back then?
I enjoyed my corporate life, as you said. I'm so blessed. For the entire career, I worked with wonderful people, great organizations. I had the freedom to operate. I had wonderful bosses. So I think it was a great ride, great journey, a lot of learning for me personally, right? But what happened is, I moved from US to India in 2010. During that transition, my CEO said, since a trustworthy person is moving to India, we would like to expand our India operation. So I came here, I grew the operations from almost zero to 250 employees in 3 years, and we set up 2 offices, Bangalore and Noida. But we developed the leadership team. Then I felt my role was not exciting. I was not doing what was fueling me, what was driving me, right? So that's when I started having conversations with my CEO to say, hey, listen, I need to figure out something else, right? I need to do something, and we were very open about it, right? So our relationship was such that I could actually have such conversations with him. He said, "Yeah, I understand, right? Why don't you you figure out what you want to do? Meanwhile, you continue here." I said, "Yes." So that's when and that's the time where a lot of startup was booming in India, right? During the time, so I was constantly looking for opportunities. One of the low-hanging fruit for me was to do something in the HR space, right? Start a recruitment consulting agency and all that. But then I also realized there are
many
dime dozen in the space already, and I'll be one
addition to this.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do anything in that space which I was very familiar with, right? So I was obviously looking at tech. I had a lot of friends in the tech space because I've worked in the IT space for a long time. Is there a problem we can solve, right? Like a lot of other tech innovation. So we were looking at a lot of other options. So during the time when I was exploring is when...
was this in the year 2009 or 10?
No, this was in 2015.
15, okay.
15, right? So that's when, Sushil, who's one of my partners, another co-founder of Silver Oak Health, he had already, had this idea on the mental health space because he comes from a mental health background. He used to work for Pearson.
Well, I would say, was it an early start because people only started hearing about mental well-being and all these things off late, very recently?
Mostly after COVID.
Yes. Yes, very much yes.
Yeah, so when we started, it was still very new.
True.
Right? There were probably a handful of companies in the space then.
True.
Right? Especially in the corporate setup. But then today, I would say there are probably more than 200 plus organizations in India in the mental health space, both in the B2B and B2C space. Right? So So when I met Sushil through a common contact, and we all used to golf together. That's how we knew each other. I knew Sushil, but then Sushil also came out of PSN, and he was also wanting to do something in this space, because he was running the PSN's clinical assessment and talent assessment division, and they were selling assessments to psychologists across India. So he had already had a little bit of information in the mental health space, and he knew the challenges as well. And one of the challenges was that there were not enough psychologists, psychiatrists availability in India to the population. Even now, in a lot of other countries as well. So we were looking at, can we digitize something in the mental health space and go to the market?
Okay.
Right? So that was our initial thought process, right? And I come from a HR background, so I knew there is an offering called EAP, Employee Assistance Program,
True.
which is globally available for most of the corporate organizations to help employees fulfill their mental health needs through this program called EAP. So that's a worldwide known terminology. So when we started working together, we realized for us it's safer to go in the B2B space.
Yes.
Go after the corporates, because in India, I don't think people are ready to spend money on mental health.
Correct.
Right? The mindset is still not come. There's a lot of stigma and taboo around this topic.
True.
So it was a lot more easier for us to venture into the corporate route, right? And since I'm from HR background, I knew a lot of HR heads in a lot of companies as well. So it was a lot more easier for me to get into their organizations and have a meeting with them and say, hey, listen, can we do this, right? So we got through some contacts, and obviously, a lot more went through people, referral and all of that. Finally, we were able to manage into corporates. So first year, I think we got some 5 customers. Second year, we got 6 customers. So it was a handful of customers in the first few years. It was quite hard, going through this journey. And then came COVID, and there was a huge spike for the mental health demand, and then
Absolutely.
that took care of the business by itself, right? At that time, there was a lot of demand. And then after that, I think there is a consistent need for mental health, services in corporates today.
Very true.
Yeah.
So Silver Oak Health today is standing very tall with 200 plus employees, if I'm right.
Yes, we have over 500 corporate customers as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
A decade of experience.
Decade of experience.
Right. Wonderful. I mean, so you said 250 plus, 200 plus employees, sir. I'm sure, how's the mental well-being of the employees of Silver Oak Health?
we do give utmost care to that.
Absolutely,
make
it has to be. Charity begins at home.
Absolutely. So we make sure there is enough work-life balance for our own employees. There are self-care opportunities for our own employees to make sure that you can't pour from an empty cup. Right. If my psychologists are supposed to help others, they need to be in the right mindset. So we make sure they are taken care. So through self-care or through supervision, some of those processes take care of that as well.
I don't know whether I should ask this question in a public platform, but let me, without naming them, somebody demands to work today 70 hours a week, 90 hours a week. What's your take on that?
Personally, if you ask me, I've probably fulfilled both of this in my career.
You have done it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have, and I'm very proud to say that today wherever I am is because of that, right? The initial foundation of not looking at the clock and working and learning. Nothing wrong. So I'm actually grateful to the opportunities were given to me where I could capitalize on them, right? So I never looked at the clock and worked, right? But again, we are in different generation now, right? So we can't enforce the same in a generation we are today. So I think it's more personal for an individual to say,
right,
I would like to do this and I would like to work extra hours or whatever it is, right? So it's up to an individual. I don't think you can enforce it from an organization standpoint, because obviously there are laws around it, and whatnot. So it's quite hard. It's not easy as it sounds.
Somebody who has that mindset to achieve something, I think it doesn't matter whether it's 70 or 90.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
They just go.
Right. And for me, the other thing which also, didn't make a difference is whether Silver Oak Health or my previous organizations. My attitude towards work was same. Right. So today I don't work any differently because it's my own company. Because even in my earlier assignments and wherever I worked, I had the same mindset. I always felt it was my own company. While I was getting a monthly paycheck there also, but that's the mindset I had. So it was easy for me to continue the same attitude with Silver Oak Health as well.
Absolutely. That's very lovely to know. I mean, that's, I think, one of the serious message from you to all my budding entrepreneurs over here. As I said, you are into a domain which is very niche, need of the hour today. Is it possible that you can recollect the best moment of yours where your, I would say, counseling or anything has given the fantastic result to your corporate client? Without naming them, if it's okay.
Yeah, there are lots.
sure
of
there are
them,
many.
Lots of them.
Just correct me here. Sorry to intervene. When you say corporate client, how do you go? I mean, you approach the individual employees of a particular corporate, or you have an association with a corporate as a whole, wherein you have your own counseling team, which does the counseling for that corporate as and when it is required. How does it work?
That's the later part what you talked about, right?
Okay.
So we form partnerships with organizations.
Okay.
And this is provided to the employees as a benefit internally.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like, for example, a Mediclaim insurance or
Right.
any other benefit they may have.
Right.
The EAP services are also provided as one of the benefits to all the employees, free of cost.
Okay.
Right? And most of the cases, even family members are covered. That's the way we bundle our offerings as well. Right? Because, as I said, there's already a lot of stigma and taboo around this topic.
Yes.
And on top of it, if you add a cost element to the employee, they are going to turn away from availing these benefits. So we want to make sure it's a benefit offered by the organization to the employee. So we work with the companies. Like, for example, usually I go and meet the HR folks inside the organization, or a benefits administrator inside the organization, who will be running these kind of benefits for their employees as well. So that is one. And two, most importantly, we also have to continuously educate the employees to say that it is confidential.
Okay.
Right? Because most of the time, employees may feel this benefit is provided by my company. Would they come to know if I take counseling sessions? Right? And this is something very personal, confidential.
Absolutely.
And
that's quite obvious in the mind of an employee.
Absolutely. And I think even now, a lot of employees who call our helpline, first thing they'll ask, hey, if I talk to one of the psychologists or a counselor here, would my manager know? Would my company know? Right? So that's a standard question people ask. In spite of we assuring them several times, that's a standard question we get asked.
So yeah, coming back to the previous question. So could you recollect any example where, I mean, you really felt that counseling has really brought some massive changes on a particular employee? Anything to that, I'm sure.
I do have a lot of stories, Guru, in terms of, this is like every week we hear these success stories, right? And I'm sure our customers also very pleased to inform us when they see a change,
that is very
transformation in an employee who was going through certain challenge, and then our counseling, which actually helped them, right? And it's not only for employees, at times even family members, right? Especially young adults, teenagers who are going through a lot of challenge, not able to figure out what they want to do in their career. They also get referred to our counseling, and then they get helped, and then parents come and tell us, hey, I'm really grateful to Silver Oak Health. They could steer the ship for my son or my daughter, and we have saved relationships. There are people who are thinking about hurting themselves or hurting others, including having suicidal ideation. So that is also something we deal with on a regular basis. So we have saved a lot of lives that way. So there are, as I said, there are enough and more examples I can think of as we speak. But then on the whole, this is what we deal with on a daily basis.
True. I think I always believe in grassroots level education also should start focusing more on these topics. I'm very happy to inform the viewers as well as you that GIBS would also be starting its own school on mindfulness.
Very good.
Which is very important. Teaching subjects is fine. Teaching entrepreneurial strategies through all such sessions are fine. But at the same time, if you have your own school, or if you have an expert like you, wherein we can deliberate on these important topics, I think that's where the real change would begin. Very sad to say, India tops the table when it comes to student suicidal death.
Absolutely.
Very, very sad to say. So my also, I would not say advice, request is like, how about you also associating with some schools and educational institutions on this matter?
We have been open to that. In fact, pre-COVID, we did work with one of the large institutions as well. And that relationship lasted for 2+ years for us, right? So we were going into the school, colleges, you want to call it 11th and 12th, and educating children in live classroom sessions about how to overcome stress. And we could realize the amount of stress these kids were going through, right, in terms of what they need to do in the 11th and 12th to enter into a college, into a professional course, whether it is MBBS or any engineering degree. So it was something need or the other, and I think it's something we always need, because it's not going to change. The pressure is going to be always there on students, and I feel personally, I feel after coming into this line of work, this is something we need to install much earlier in our education system.
True,
right?
very true.
In one of the questions I asked when I deliver sessions, even to senior leadership people, I said, "Hey, please raise your hands, people who are attending a session on mental health for the first time." And I will tell you, 90% of the people will raise their hands.
My God.
Right? So which means they've never been taught about mental health or its importance in school, college, or even at workplace. Right? So that is surprising. Right? Even in my own school, I went to one of the best schools, I would say. Right? We had all the extracurricular activities like yoga and this, whatever you want to call it. Right? But then nothing on mental health. Right? But today, if you look at a lot of advanced countries, including UK, US, and several other European countries, they have brought in mindfulness. They brought in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Right? Those interventions are already being taught to students at a very early stage. Right? And CBT is one of the methodologies we use in our own organization. It's a scientifically proven methodology. Right? It helps everybody to learn coping mechanisms. Right? And when I looked at CBT the first time in 2016, I felt, oh my God, had I known these methodologies, my life would have been a lot more different growing up, right? And by the way, I had no idea what anxiety meant when I was growing up, right? Just to give you one example, so we used to have inter-school cricket matches, right? And I used to be an opening batsman in my school team. I played for 4 years. And the previous night, I would literally play the match inside my head. And there'll be multiple versions of that match I'll be playing inside my head. One will be a great version where I go open, hit some 50 runs. An average version where I played reasonably okay. And then a worse scenario where I got out.
Is it like a manifestation or a visualization?
I wouldn't call it visualization. Is actually a positive aspect.
Okay.
But here, I'm anxious thinking about how it's going to turn out tomorrow.
And
I'm replaying that, in my head, right? That's what we call it as a worry. I'm worried about how this match is going to turn out for me, and I'm replaying that scenarios inside my head, right? And that's what we call it anxiety. I was anxious about it.
True.
Right? So I had no idea this one, and then literally I would be staying awake the entire night thinking about it, right? So that's what we call it as anxiety. I never knew that's what anxiety meant those days.
Do we also in this domain talk about patience and anger management?
Of course. Of course, all of that is involved, right? Anything which affects your thoughts, your behavior, your emotions, all of that is part of what we, put it in the mental health basket.
Because being in this academic industry over last 16 years, I would say now, these two are the very important ingredient my students are missing this time. Lack of patience, very bad in anger management, right? So that was the whole intention why I said I think people like you should tap the education and school institutes wherein these are taught at the very grassroots level.
Absolutely. I think we are always open to new avenues of expanding our business, and we have not said we won't do it, but we'll obviously be open to it.
Awesome. What is the challenge in this domain, sir? What challenge I would say the Silver Oak Health has faced in the last 1 decade?
Initially, it's the acceptance from corporate customers.
I thought I would listen to this answer. Yes.
Yeah, saying that this is a need for their employees, right?
Yes.
Because most of the employers would say, no, my employees are okay, right? They don't need anything on mental health. They're all doing well, right? I don't know if
that's a wrong statement.
Yeah, they felt that if I engage with a company which provides EAP, am I saying that my employees are stressed? right? I don't know if that was a thought process driving that behavior for some of the employers initially whom we met, right? Of course, post COVID, they realize, stress is everywhere. Everybody
Absolutely.
needs support on mental health. But then pre-COVID, this was probably a lot of them had this, misconception about providing mental support, right? Today, when I talk about this, I say, it's probably as important as physical health, or even more important than physical health, because my mental health could affect my physical health, right? So that is the nature of what we are dealing with at this point, right? Right. So that was one challenge, I would say. Of course, combined with stigma and taboo around this topic, right? And this was probably in the lowest order of the need for them at that point, right? Should I even spend on this, right? All of those were the challenges what we initially faced when we were starting a business. But then we stood our ground, and we were patient enough to see things slowly changed, and some of the corporate employers felt yes, there is a need, and especially a lot of large organizations we signed up initially were some of the wins for us, which really made a huge difference.
That's true. That's great. A lot of my students, are budding entrepreneurs. You yourself an entrepreneur, so you will understand this, that one entrepreneur gets into a lot of ups and downs, right? So, what is your, I would say, a kind of suggestion to manage not only ups and downs, but your success and failure management as well, which again I believe is closely related to the mindset, which again is all about mindfulness.
Right.
You agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I was recently, watching a video. I think it was one of the Instagram reels. I think, it was they quoted Rahul Dravid as an example. They quoted Roger Federer as an example. While these are all considered as most successful, professional, folks
Athlete
in
in sport.
the athlete in
Right.
the respective sports they were. But then they said their failures were a lot more than their wins, right? The number of times Rahul Dravid has not scored more than 50 is much higher than the times he scored 50, and similarly, number of points Roger Federer didn't score was much higher than the points he scored, right? So failures is part and parcel of our life, right? It's ups and downs are going to happen, right? We just have to be open to it, and we have to look at what we have learned from that, right?
That's very important.
And I think how quickly can you bounce back, right? That's what we call about building resilience, being resilient, right? How quickly can you bounce back from any of the hurdles you face in your professional, personal life is very, very important, because they're about to come, right? If they've not come yet, lucky, but then they will come, right? I don't think, in fact, a lot of studies in our space talk about 1 in 4 will have a mental challenge, 1 in 3, and whatever. I strongly believe those numbers are, incorrect. I think everybody will have a mental challenge in their life,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It will come in some form or fashion during your lifetime. You just have to figure out how to deal with it. If you're prepared, great. If you're not, then you're going to go through the hardship of dealing with it.
Resilience and managing these skills are not born with you, right? I mean, you have to build over the time.
Some part of resilience is born with you.
Is it?
You're generally wired to be more resilient. Some people are more resilient than others by nature, right? But then the beauty is we all can learn to become more resilient.
Okay.
Right. So that's where your CBT, mindfulness, all of them help to become more resilient. Right.
But I take one point very seriously what you said. Mental health is more important today than the physical health. Again, not naming some of the institution, I'm sure you might have heard the case where the employees have died in the workplace in the last just couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. And I've also seen examples of many ones who are very fit physically facing the cardiac arrest at a very early age. Is that the result of your mental health as well? Because you're very, very strong, as you said.
It could be. It could be in some cases. We have also heard certain employees where they didn't sleep well, long hours of work obviously has affected them, and that led to the death of these employees as well. It's highly possible. It's case to case, but then mental health does play a role, right? Because I always tell one of the most underappreciated thing we do is sleep, right? We don't appreciate sleep enough, right? Sleep is so important. there is no shelf life for sleep. It's not like I didn't sleep tonight, I'll catch up, 16 hours of sleep the next night. No, I still have my chores to run. I have things to do, so I can only sleep another 8 hours, right? So that's why sleep is so important, and we don't appreciate, we don't value sleep enough, right? And especially in this day and age of OTT and whatnot, right? And I know there are episodes sitting there, which I can watch later. They'll still be there, right? They're not going to vanish. But then, we don't think in those lines. No, I love it. I want to make sure I watch all the
one
eight
thing, we're not
episodes
giving
tonight.
too much of seriousness, right? I've
Yeah.
heard students also saying I had 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. That's sufficient.
It's not right. The globally we have heard 7 to 8 hours of sleep is what we need, right? It's very important because a couple of things are happening when we sleep, right? One is obviously a lot of cells get damaged on a day-to-day basis, and our body is made of millions and millions of cells, right? They get rebuilt, repaired during the process of when we are sleeping, right? So that is from a physical body standpoint. And for me, cognitively, a lot of, like, for example, memories, right? All of that gets created, right? Like everything gets processed and gets stored in parts of a brain when we are sleeping, right? That's why a lot of us are scratching our head and saying, "Oh, what did we discuss yesterday? I can't recall," because it didn't get processed, right? It didn't get stored in your memory, right? So that's why sleep is so important for various reasons.
Very true. So you are doing a tremendous job, considering the domain that you are in. This is the need of the hour. This is more like, I would not say completely an entrepreneurial mindset. It's I would say the CSR mindset as well. You're doing a tremendous job for the organization, for the employee, for the families of the employee. So I would definitely excited and interested to know what's next in the bucket list of yours.
I think for me personally, coming into this line of work was a blessing, a calling, I would say. I'm so glad it happened to me, right? So I'm immensely grateful to my partner Sushil for joining hands with me. One, and two, I think we will continue to expand in this line because we see tremendous need, right? And it's growing
No doubt.
and growing. Our company is growing year over year, right? So it's a wonderful space to be, and it's continue to grow. So we will continue to be in this space, and of course, we want to grow in a manner where we are able to reach a lot more, touch a lot more lives, not only in India, outside India as well. So that's our long-term plan in terms of expanding within India, outside India, building partnership is what we are looking at in the long term.
And associating with some education institutes as well.
That goes without saying, right? If we don't discriminate between a corporation and an educational institution, right? Wherever we see opportunity to work with individuals where we can make a difference in their lives, right? Can I teach you coping mechanisms to deal with stress? Can I make you more mindful? Can I make you more resilient? Yes, it could apply to a student. It could apply to a corporate employee. So
Absolutely.
we are absolutely open to all of that.
I'll be the first one to connect with you when we launch GIBS Mindfulness School.
My pleasure. I'll be there, sir.
Fantastic. So we are the fag end of the wonderful interaction, I would say. So there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs watching us. As I said, this is a unique discussion where we had a limited interactions on mindfulness and all of that. So to my budding entrepreneurs, what would be your message?
I would say, take your time. Don't be in a hurry when you start a business, right? It takes a lot of time, and there'll be a lot of ups and downs. Be aware of it, right? And make sure you have all the right people next to you, whether it is a partner whom you're going to work with, or a set of advisors whom you're going to work with, because believe me, it's a very lonely place, right? When you're running your own business, right? And finally, my advisor always used to tell me, raise as much money possible, because money will run out very quickly, and that's majority of the time I've seen a lot of businesses shut down because they ran out of funds, right? So make sure all of this is something we are taking care, and of course stay focused, be humble, and give it time, right? Patience is very, very important in this because it takes time. What we hear is all the great stories about organizations which succeeded in this journey, but then what we don't hear is how many people closed down the business because they couldn't continue because the passion ran out or they ran out of money or so many other reasons. So I would say keep your passion out there. Make sure you're focused. Give it time, right? For me, time is the most important. If you stay in the business will automatically come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic message. Entrepreneurship, according to me, is a journey. When I say it's a journey, it's filled with ups, it's filled with downs, success, failure. It's all about management. There were some real good key points that we both discussed. I want you to make a very serious note of it, especially when it comes to time management, as I said, patience, anger management, stress, mental well-being, very more important than physical fitness. So all of these I want you all to give a very serious thought, because this is going to play a very crucial role in your entrepreneurial journey. Well, I would say this was a fantastic interaction with loads of takeaways for all of you. On behalf of all my viewers, I thank Mr. Saravanan Neel for the wonderful interaction.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure to have hosted you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe us in all the social media platforms, GIBS Business School, GIBS IRE Talks, and do follow Saravanan Neel sir in the social media platforms. You tend to listen and hear a lot of things. For now, this is Guru Prasad signing off. Thank you for watching.